Today I'm painting in Art Rage. Hi everyone, Steve Elliott here. I'm working in Art Rage today and I want to talk about painting the not so obvious. So I have a painting, I have a photograph on the screen, and I took this while I was walking along a country lane near where I live, and the public footpath sign struck me as being interesting. And I've taught people in the past, and we've sort of worked in a classroom environment or a studio environment for 10 weeks or so, and then I've said, right, okay, we've done a lot of painting, now let's go out and paint in outside. And people would go along. I'd take them to some really picturesque places, and they would walk around for an hour looking for something to paint. And you don't need to be looking for that perfect subject, because you're probably not going to find it, because you're going to need the light to be right, the sun in the right place, the shadows falling exactly as you want them. And if you do get the perfect scene, I'm talking about landscapes here, if you do get the correct scene, when you paint it, it will probably look like it belongs on a chocolate box. So I suggest that when you go out and you're looking for painting, now this doesn't mean you have to paint outside. This means, because I don't paint outside very often. Quite often I've always got my phone with me, and I use the camera on it. The cameras on smartphones are just awesome. So I'm always on the lookout for something to paint. And the point I'm making is, you do not need to be looking for the perfect subject, because you're going to be looking for a long time. And there are perfect subjects, these little gems all over the place, and they're probably 2 foot away from where you started your walk. So what I would suggest is that you look a lot closer at your environment and try and be inspired by subjects that you probably think are mundane and boring. This, as I walk past, as you can see the photograph, you would not think that there is a painting in there at all, because it looks flat, boring. There's no people in there. It's not very interesting. But to me, that signpost told a story. It was saying, come along this path and you will have an adventure. So that's what it was saying to me, and I thought that there is definitely a painting there. So that was what initially struck me as being interesting. And so I decided that it was going to be a painting. And when I took it, I totally had in mind this video, because I was thinking to myself, you just wouldn't think of painting that, and it would be a really good subject to talk about on a video, about how you don't always have to be looking for that grand scene, the stately home with the long garden in front of it, or whatever. There is lots and lots of tiny little scenes all over the place. I did a sketch quite a while ago. It was last summer, and it was just, I was walking past a gate. This was a place called Elveston Castle, and the castle was, it is like this stately home with this garden, and you've seen videos of the English garden or secret garden that they've got there, where I've painted pictures of that. So there is lots of fantastic stuff there to paint, but there was this just crunky old iron gate, and I thought, that's interesting. I just took a photo of it and then did this sketch, and I think I did it in paper 53. It was either paper 53 or Teosui Sketches, and I uploaded it to Instagram, and it amazed me, and to one or two of the groups that I post in, and it got loads and loads of likes, and I was really surprised. And I don't know what. Well, yeah, I was surprised because it was just a really simple, basic little sketch of nothing really. And that's the point I'm making. Sometimes the best paintings come out of what apparently is nothing. So I'm encouraging you to look a little bit closer and fill your camera up with loads and loads of photographs of things. And then when you'll be looking through them, you will get lots of inspiration, hopefully. Just looking at this painting quickly, I just want to point out, can you see I've moved the horizon line in the photo? It's almost center of the picture, the horizon, or the ground level. And I've moved it down to the third, taking advantages of the rules of thirds there. I just thought I'd point that out. That was, thought that was quite interesting. I created it, although in Art Rage, as you know, I sort of try and work in one layer when I'm doing oil painting as much as possible. And I got the blue ground down very quick and then started painting in that. And I was using the flat oil brush to do the sky, and then I moved to the round oil brush for all of the bushes and trees and things and the grasses. And then I did create another layer for this lamppost. I thought this could go terribly, terribly wrong, and I don't want to damage the painting underneath it. So I created this third layer, but as soon as I'd finished, I wouldn't say I'd finished the footpath sign, but as soon as I was happy where it was and I'd got it, the proportions right and everything, I flattened the layer pretty much straight away. Another thing I want to talk about, if you look at that kind of the bright green, vibrant grass, if you notice, it sort of goes across at an angle to the gate, and then the gate leads you up towards the post. So there's sort of a deliberate thing going off there that leads your eye into the painting. And I've put the footpath sign at a jaunty angle. I felt, it just wouldn't work if it was straight up. I've changed this photograph quite a lot for the painting and I've also moved the post a little bit more to the a bit closer to the center, more on the third again. So I'm again taking advantage of those third proportions. And I'm also using, if you notice, quite muted colours. Although in the photograph the colours are really muted, and I've just got a little bit more vibrant colour in the foreground just to push that forward. And now I start working in. At that point, I could have had a finished painting, I suppose. I think that looks finished there, but sometimes you just got to keep working it. And I decided to go a little bit darker on the gates. And I wanted to bring the gates and that post together, so it becomes almost one object. So you see there, I've painted in that dark brown colour, which sort of joins the gate and that post together to sort of bring it as part of the same painting. I felt the post felt isolated at that point. But just by painting that darker shadow along the gate and up to the post, it does tie it all in nicely. Then I flick in some bracken and grasses and things. So very loose painting. The old painting actually took me about an hour from start to finish. I got pretty much an idea exactly of what I wanted to do though. So I didn't need much thinking time. I just waded straight in. You notice the post, it isn't painted the same colour from top to bottom. I've sort of, where the sky is light, I've got a dark post to sort of really make it stand out. And then I've gone lighter against the bushes. I'm just flicking in a few branches now and twigs and things just to overlap them and sort of break up that white space in the middle of the painting where the sky is. I felt that needed just something in there, and I'm going to sort of paint some more twigs in. And I really like the two trees that I put in, or the trunks that I put in on the left hand side of the painting. I thought that added a nice balance to the right hand side, where all the action seemed to be going off on the right, and now I've sort of added those on the left, and that balances that up really nice. I was pleased with that. I was using a combination at this point. I'd gone to the thick oil brush, and I was using a combination of the instant dry, clicking that on and off. So because when that was off, I was the paint on the canvas was mixing with the paint on the brush, and I wanted to get a little bit more defined colour and branches and things. So by clicking on the instant dry, that helped a lot. So it's very rare do I mess about with the settings on the brushes. I tend to just work with them as they are, but in this case I did feel that it needed that. And then I decided to put in these sort of grasses right in the foreground, because they kind of are in the photo. And as I was doing it, I was thinking, that ain't working. They're coming out. I don't want that. I want to be able to see. I don't want the picture. The painting was obscured by those grasses, so they had to come out. At this point, I think this is the point where I changed to the thick oil brush and started dabbing on some strong colour. And then I started looking at the composition, and I was thinking I needed a more balance of colour. I needed a little bit of green in the bushes, and I needed a little bit more of the kind of bracken colour in the grasses in the foreground, and I needed a heavier colour in the foreground as well. I felt that it was all floating a little bit. So I'm getting pretty close to the end, but there's just a few things that I need to keep tweaking. And I don't think this is tweaking. I think at this point, this is, I'm not fiddling. I am still working on it. And there are things that aren't quite balanced that need resolving. So it's not a case of just fiddling. I think at one point I could have finished the painting. Earlier on, you could have said it was a finished painting. But at this point now, I've added a lot more to it. It's not. It still needs a little bit more. So you can see I'm sort of softening off that darker line that I put in. And then let's see, where am I going now? I think I'm going to sign it. Yeah, so I'm pretty much sure that we're getting close to the end. So I do sign it, but I didn't stop there. I did carry on. I wanted to. I painted directly into the paint with that brush, because it really looks like you're scratching your name in there. There's that darker bit of colour going in the foreground. I think that was really crucial to stop the painting look like it's just going to float away. And then I put a little bit more vibrant colour just right in that little bit of foreground, just to bring that forward a bit. And you can see a diagonal appearing that leads you into the gate again. So all that is sort of quite intentional. I'm just working on shadows now, really. I'm just trying to tie the whole thing together. There's a bit of space on the left-hand side that probably needs something putting in there. Just a few flicks. There we go. That's nice. And that is pretty much it. That is my painting the not so obvious, a footpath sign where I go walking. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I have lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Bye!